بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. نوينا تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير ونفع والانتفاع. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وتعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة من الغير ابتغاء وجه الله وفضله وقربه وثوابه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. You will do the slawat before fiqh tahawulat, okay? So if someone has slides, can share the slides. Anyone has the slides of the slawat for fiqh tahawulat? The slides. The slawat lah. The slawat that we do for fiqh tahawulat. Anybody has it? I'll just been reading, okay? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد المأمون على العلم المضمون والفهم المكنون من سر الكاف والنون وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا اللهم نصيب وافرة من سر أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد المأمون على العلم المضمون والفهم المكنون من سر الكاف والنون وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وارزقنا اللهم نصيبا وافرا من سر قولك إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. صلى الله على في كل لحظة أبدا عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We're continuing with our class, inshallah. We're continuing with our class, inshallah, inshallah. Right, so we were taking from the profile of Habib Abu Bakr Adani yesterday. I'll finish it today, inshallah, and then we go on to the material, right? So as we are going through the different, very basically, what I can say for this dawrah is that what we can do probably in the 6 weeks of dawrah is give like a good overview and introduction, inshallah, right, to this knowledge of fiqh tahawulat. But it's an entire science, it's an entire science. So how you say, about fiqh itself, fiqh muamala, fiqh ibadat, right? How you say about the knowledge of or understanding the laws, of worship or laws of transactions, right? Or you say aqidah, or you say, hadith, or you say tafsir and so on, right? It is not a one-off course, and it cannot be, right? It cannot be a one-off course, right? There is it's an entire ilmu, right? It's an entire knowledge, right? So you can't like learn fiqh, like that, in just a few sessions. No, you can't. Right, but you take book after book after book after book before you're able to really encompass the entire knowledge. Or not the entire knowledge. In fact, before you're able to encompass enough, right, for you to get by, right? So it is what I would say, it is a beginning, right? And inshallah, with the intention that we continue, right, in learning this, right? There's a whole thing about Daura, is that it's intensive. You come, you spend 40 days, you study knowledges that maybe for some people is difficult to maintain throughout the year, right? So in this 40 days, if you focus intensive, right, you learn what you want to learn that is important, then your whole year you focus on practicing that knowledge. Then come the following year, you come again and you learn intensively, then you practice the entire year. Tamam. So fiqh tahawulat, this will be the first year running, right? Maybe there'll be future, for the following years. Allahu alam, Allah knows best, right? So but it is a full knowledge. So I just hope that you don't expect to learn all of it, right, in these few sessions in the Dawrah. But what we will do is that we will start off doing it, right? And inshallah, we see what Allah has planned and what Allah wants from us. Which I myself, I don't know. I don't know really, what is in store with regards to this knowledge. All we know is that it is an ilmu, it is a knowledge that is essential, not even like a side knowledge, but it is a core knowledge. It's a core knowledge because it's a knowledge of protection. It's himaya. It's a knowledge of protection. So therefore, everybody has to learn it, inshallah. I will speak about the mabadi al-ilm, and we'll see the ruling of this knowledge. What is the hukum? What is the ruling in learning this knowledge? Tamam. Okay, yesterday, okay, remind me, I want to tell you all a story, okay, at the end of this session. Remind me, I have a story to tell you all. I was going to tell you all yesterday, then I forgot. Right, so today just remind me, okay, inshallah. Tamam. Yesterday we spoke about the education of Habib Adani, right? And we said that his education was traditional at the hands of his father. This is what they would say their main education. Their main education will always be at the hands of their own parents, their own fathers, right? These people were all homeschooled, you can say. They were homeschooled. They did go to formal schooling, but that is on the side, right? In a sense, it's like on the side, mashallah. In our zaman, is the opposite is going on, whereby people see formal schooling as the main form of schooling, and then parents are like by the side. No, subhanallah. And for me, when I look at my own upbringing, my own childhood, that I saw that my mother, she and my father both, like they are my main teachers. And my mother and my father, both of them are my main teachers. Then I just happened to go to school. Right? I just happened to go to school and and learn something in school. But I would say that 99% of my knowledge, growing up, it all came from my mother and also my father. Right, and this is the way of the scholars, the righteous. Right? They are like that, right? They are like that. They learn at the hands of their parents, mashallah, especially Islamic knowledge. Naam, right? So yesterday I was in the story, right? And then when the story is here, right? But yesterday I was saying, and you know what, these slides, right? I tell you one thing. These slides were prepared by my mother, I think more than maybe more than 15 years ago or more than 20 years ago, because I found these slides in her stash of slides that she used to prepare to teach me and my siblings when we were growing up or we were teenagers. And when I was a teenager, I found it in her stash of slides that she used to prepare to teach us. Right, so this is her slides, from I don't know when did she do this, but it's so old school PowerPoint and the color background and everything, so old school, mashallah. So I mean, this is something that I appreciate, of her efforts in trying to find out, more and more things to share with her own children in her own efforts, right? Not giving up. And then mashallah, down the 20 years down the road, 20 years down the road, I'm studying the works of this great person without even realizing that I first heard of him when I was a teenager. I didn't even realize it. Only now when I was looking through her material, she has like a stash of material, and I was looking through it and I was like, she taught us about our worker, mashallah. She did the tarjamah done out for him, mashallah. This is not my work, and it's my mother's work, mashallah. She did her own tarjamah of him just to inform us about him. Mashallah, mashallah. It's all the people who have their strong niyyah, their strong intentions, mashallah. and it's manifesting. Now, so I wanted to just say about Sayyidina, about him and his encounter with Habib Abdul Qadir al-Saggaf. It was really at the hands of Habib Abdul Qadir al-Saggaf that he got his opening, his futuh, his opening in this knowledge, mashallah. So what happened was that after he graduated from the University of Aden, right, and mashallah, he was known for his zakat, and he was known for his intellect, his very sharp intellect, to the point yesterday I mentioned that if he were to ever engage in it, there was one time somebody called him to play chess, and he could just beat anyone. He could beat anyone at chess in a matter of seconds. He could just beat them, so easily he could win anybody, right? And to the point one person said, this man has incredible intellect. He has incredible intellect. And if you look at the Mujaddidun of our Zaman, right, and amongst them is Habib Abu Bakr Adani, and of course, obviously, amongst them is Habib Umar bin Hafiz, right? I would say obvious. It's obvious he's a Mujaddid. It's not biased or anything, but it's obvious. Look at, mashallah. So mashallah. One thing about the Dawrah is that it is said that during Dawrah time, and now in Tarim is Dawrah period, the whole of Tarim is filled with people from the east and from the west of this world. They come to Tarim for the Dawrah. And Tarim is so full of people. That is why the first 2 days of Dawrah, my internet was down because the infrastructure here couldn't handle the internet demand of a sudden influx of human beings into ID. You go now along out on the streets, right? Tarim is so full. It's so full, Tarim, mashallah, of people, mashallah. And this is like who is the one, I mean, of course, Allah is the one who did it, right? But through who? And that's one of the signs of a mujaddid, that great things happen at his hands, right? And of course, by the permission, the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but great things happen. Subhanallah, and of course, it's Habib Umar, Habib Umar, building Dar Mustafa, right, on the outskirts of Tarim, in the desert. Back then, there was nothing here in Aidid, and now it's a bustling town of fortune. Right? Money is coming in. People are fortune. They've great fortune here, right, because of the influx of foreigners. Mashallah. But anyway, Alhamdulillah, I'm just going back to here. So, this is one of the. So when you look at the Mujaddidun, right? When you look at those who are the Mujaddid, right, of our Zaman and of any Zaman, right, they are people, they do things, right, that really change drastically, right? It changes the world drastically. It changes, people's religiosity drastically, right? So, and all of them, Imam Shafi'i, look at Imam Al-Ghazali, look at all of them, they do drastic, contributions, not just major contributions to this religion. They are the Mujahideen, right? They do great things, right? MashaAllah. Right? So it's not just by the side, but it's like something like subhanallah, it blows your mind. What I was saying that about ID, the delegations that come to ID, it's because mashallah, every year, groups of people from all over the world, from different countries come to Tarim for the Dawrah. Inshallah, and all of you here, I told you before, you're all from the idea of Habib Umar. It's this idea to put it online, right? So and who knew that it would expend so much and so many people, being affected by this Dawrah, and who is the one who pushed it? It was Al-Habib. Right, not me, right? Not the teachers here in Azkar, right? No, none of us. It was not of any of our ideas, but it was Al Habib that he called up and his idea, and he said, "Do this." Right, and marhaba, yes, you listen to the mujaddid, right? Whatever he says, you just do, mashallah, mashallah. Right. So anyway, the delegations to IDIT now, it is compared to the delegations to al-wufud, al-wufud, it is the word in Arabic. The delegations to IDIT now is the delegations to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam during his time. Right? So people from all over the peninsula would come to Medina and and pledge their allegiance to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? And then like here in IDIT, right, so people from all over the world would come here and they would go to the Habib Umar, and the Mustafa is filled, the Rosara is filled, right, subhanallah, with people from all over the world. Mashallah. So anyway, I was just saying that they do things that are so immense, right? That it changes. You say it caused major changes in the course of history of human society, right? So with the Mujaddidun, and we're going to speak about fiqh tahawul, we're going to speak a lot about the forces of good and you speak a lot about the forces of evil. Just like yesterday, you spoke about the bushra, right? The mubashirat, right? Basically, the good news of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we also speak about the bad news. We also speak about the warnings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, and Habib al-Adani, he mentioned in one of his books that whenever something drastic happens and changes the course of history or the course of human civilization, right, of human society, that these are all, like plunges, movements, huge steps towards the end of time. So this drastic changes in society can be positive, it can be negative, right? So, like, for example, the World War I, World War II, so drastic changes in society, and they were negative, right? They were negative, right? And then here, and then like the entire formation of the Hawlat, and him building schools. If you knew the number of schools Habib al-Ghani has built, subhanallah, all over, Yemen, subhanallah, he is serious about this work. About this work of building an entire generation of people who are so strong in their religion, as it in the hadith, they are like the Hawariyun, right? They are like the Sahaba, right? They are strong in the Iman, they're strong in their Amal, they are strong in their knowledge of religion. He himself has built the schools, Habib al-Qur'ani, even for children. From as young as 7 years old, he has built the manhaj, right? Because he's serious about forming people, like, of developing people, like, who will be, a strong, fi'ah, the strong group of human beings, right, who will uphold the religion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what happened was that, and you can see this all, the will of Allah. His kehendak, his will, his irada. It's all the irada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah has placed in this ummah, right? People, like, who will yansuruna deen Allah, right? They will bring victory to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Habib al-Adani, like, his dream, and mashallah, and so Anisa told us a very, beautiful story about this, but mashallah, I'll mention it later on. His dream is to actually study in Al-Azhar. That was his dream, to go to Al-Azhar and study there, right? Mashallah. His father, who has, basira, right, inner sight, his father said to him, okay, before you go to Al-Azhar, go to Habib Abu Bakr and go to Habib Abdul Qadir as-Saggaf. Okay? Go to Habib Abdul Qadir as-Saggaf, right, and speak to him. See what he says. So Habib Abu Bakr, he went to the Hijaz, right? He met with the Qutub. This is the Qutub of the time. Habib Abdul Qadir as-Saggaf was a Qutub. He went to the Qutub, Habib Abdul Qadir as-Saggaf, right? And mashallah, right? So when he sat with Habib Abdul Qadir as-Saggaf, he mentioned his intentions of going to Al-Azhar, right? To go and study the religion in Al-Azhar, right? This is not to say anything about Al-Azhar. Mashallah, it is a great institution, it's a great university, it's a great place to study, right? But it's the story of Habib Bakr al-Adani, right? So he went to Habib Abdul Qadir as-Saggaf, and Habib Abdul Qadir as-Saggaf was the story goes that he was listening to him, and then after Habib Abu Bakr al-Adani, as a young man, had already expressed what his intentions are in going to Al-Azhar, Habib Abdul Qadir as-Saggaf very simply said, tomorrow, tomorrow, take your books of hadith, right, Sahih Bukhari, and come to my house. We will begin our studies. Mashallah. That was his answer. His answer was, tomorrow, get your books of hadith, right, we begin with Sahih Bukhari, right, come to my house. Okay, we will begin our studies. Mashallah. So, right? I mean, how many of us will be able to do that? Like, your dream to go to this particular university, and you work so hard to get to the university, and then a wali from the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to you, stay here. Don't go anywhere. Stay here. MashaAllah, sami'na wa ta'na, and we hear and we obey. Right. So he did that. He very well did that. And of course, you could say that Habib Abdul Qadir as-Saggaf, he has the kashaf, right? He's able to see, into the state of Habib Bakr al-Adani, and also that he could see the intellect, right? The intellect in this young man, right? And the himma, and you see the itqan, right? The precision and the excellence in his studying, right? He was someone of that level who was so excellent. When you read his books, you read his poetry, you read his material, he's so, like, he has such high level of perfection in his writings. Mashallah, it's so beautiful, mashallah. So already, you see, Allah gave him so many good traits. Right? So many, and in fact, excellent they are in their traits. So he began studying Habib al-Bakr, and he forgot all about his intention in going to Al-Azhar. Right? So he never went back to his original goal of going to Al-Azhar in Egypt, but he remained year after year after year at the feet of Habib Abdul Qadir as-Sagaf. Right? So learning directly from a Qutb. Right. It was during this period, right, this time where he was studying Habib Abdul Qadir as-Sagaf, that they were studying. This is the hadith that you say began or sparked off his futuh. Is of his in this knowledge, because like what triggered this entire thing of him realizing that so many hadith need to be reread, right? So many hadith need to be re-looked at, right? To be restudied. So many hadith, and of course ayat of the Quran. Habib Bakr has an entire series online of reinterpreting the Quran with tahawulat. It's a very beautiful mashallah series, right, where he pulls out a lot of stuff, right, from the Quran. Is all of it, you see, it's all ilm ladunni, mashallah. It's a lot of ilm ladunni that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon him. Naam, right. So what the incident that pushed him off, on this on knowledge, was that it was during the time whereby Iraq was being attacked, right? Whereby Iraq was being attacked, right? I think by the Americans. They were the ones who were attacking Iraq, right? And or maybe it was another war that was going on. But what happened, right, was that Iraq was prevented from getting any form of imports, right? So no importing of food into Iraq. Right, so no importing of grain, of food, of whatever into Iraq. There was like a hisar going on, where there was like a entire like a blockage, right? Like an economical boycott onto Iraq at that zaman, right? That was going on. So so it so happened that they were learning a hadith. He was learning a hadith from Habib Abdul Qadir as-Sagaf, right? And in this hadith, it is mentioned that there will come a time whereby, in the people of, and it was pointing towards Iraq, these people, of first, right? So where Iraq is first, whereby these people, like it will come a time whereby they almost cannot get any food into their land. So this was a hadith said by Rasulullah alayhi wasallam. It's a prophecy. So Habib Abu Bakr al-Adani, he looked at the hadith. Then he said to Habib Abu Bakr al-Sagaf, is this hadith possibly speaking about what's going on in Iraq right now? Right? And Habib Abu Bakr al-Sagaf is how it happened. Habib Abu Bakr al-Sagaf, he closed his eyes. He looked down. Then he looks back up and he opened his eyes and looked at Habib Abu Bakr al-Adani, and he said, yes. Yes. Right? This hadith is speaking about that. And then he gave the ishara. He gave the ishara. He gave the direction, and he said, search, right? Search deeply, oh my son. Search deeply into what has opened up for you, right? And from that point on, Abu Bakr began to revise, and he pulled out the books of the hadith, and he searched, and he classified, and he arranged, and he said badal al-juhd, like he expanded all of his efforts into this matter of re-looking, re-studying, re-understanding, right? Relearning all of this nusus of hadith and Quran. And from there, he realized there is an entire ilmu, an entire knowledge embedded in the words of Rasulullah that has yet to be extracted, and formulated and arranged, right, to become a full knowledge to be studied and applied. That is the importance of arranging knowledge, because then you can apply. So this knowledge of tahawulats, right, has been applied by the ulama of the past. It has been applied. Right? But for the masses, right, for the public, for the awam, it has not been applied for the awam generally because the awam do not know about it. Right? And it's difficult to study an entire ilmu if it's not structured. If it's not structured, you cannot study the ilmu properly. Right? So he began to do the work of structuring this ilmu, right, and writing it out and showing how many sections of knowledge that this knowledge has and how to take it and re-look at our thawabits of our firm pillars of Islam, which is Islam, Iman, and Ihsan. Tamam. So when I'm just finish his tarjama. When the communists left Yemen, at the time there was the communists coming down to Yemen, and in fact it is said that here in Yemen, it said that the very existence of the communist regime in Yemen, right, it was a very strange thing. Right? It was a very strange thing. Because if you think about it, where are the communists from? And the communists, you all know a bit of history. That brings you into history. It brings you into history of Islam. It brings you into history of of the world right now, of our dunya, of our modern world right now, right? Because you need to study the progression of time in human, because it's the size of end of times. So you must be studying time, tarikh, right? Tarikh, you need to study history to see what's going on for you to prepare yourself for what's going to come up. There are things going to come soon, in our zaman. So because if you go through this entire zaman, heedless, blur, unaware, you can't protect yourself from what's going to come, like in a few years. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So anyway, if you think about it, right, if you know about the communists, right, if you know a bit about the communist regime, how they began, where they began from, and so on and so forth, there are a lot of this kind of stuff you can find on YouTube. Anyway, yes, they begin in Russia, right, in Russia, and if you look at the communist regime, right, from Russia they spread to China, right. China is close to Russia, right. China is close to Russia. Okay. From China, right, there were, the communist regime, right, entered into Southeast Asia because there were Chinese in Southeast Asia, especially Singapore. Right, in Singapore, there was a huge fight before the Singapore independence. There was a fight, because of, there was a struggle, right, to not allow the communists to take over, right, because and there was a strong influence because of the Chinese, like that were present in Singapore. It's all history, It's all history. Okay, where does Yemen come in? And how in the world, how come out of nowhere the communists appeared in Yemen? Like they skipped the entire Arabian Peninsula, they skipped the entire of Syria, of Lebanon, they skipped the whole of Saudi Arabia, and they just appeared out of nowhere in Yemen. Right? It doesn't make sense. Because geographically speaking, China's next to Russia, right? China's next to Russia, it entered into China from Russia. And in China, there are a lot of Chinese, in Singapore, right? So the influence trickled right into Singapore, but it was stopped. The government was not for it, so they cut it off in Singapore. How in the world it come to Yemen? And you know what? The communists in Yemen, they were the Arabs. They were Arab people, Yemenis. They were Yemenis who were communists. So you're thinking, how did the poison of communism appear, in land of Hadramaut? How in the world? Right? Subhanallah. It was planted. It was planted. Why? The Ahlul Bayt are here. The Ahlul Bayt are here in Hadramaut. And what were the communists doing when they were in Hadramaut? They were massacring the Ahlul Bayt. They were killing off the Ahlul Bayt. It's like a repeat of Fir'aun's story. Fir'aun's story, he knew that there was going to be a boy among Bani Israel who's going to ruin him, right? And it was Nabi Musa, right? And what did he do? He went berserk, and he ordered for all baby boys to be killed from the Bani Israel. Right? That was what Fir'aun did. Right? Similar story with Dajjal. Similar story with Dajjal. Dajjal knows he can't touch Nabi Isa. Nabi Isa is not touchable. He's in paradise. But Imam Mahdi, right? He will be amongst the Ahlul Bayt. and he knows of the hadith that hold on to the Quran and Athrati. Right? Athrati, that means my family, hold on to the Quran and my family. The family of Rasulullah, they are like Safinat Nuh. Right? They are like the ship of Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. The family of Rasulullah alayhi wasalam. Right? And the family, and you will see generation after generation, it is the family of Rasulullah, the Habaib, right? The Mashayikh from the family of all over the world, not just Yemen, but all over the world. There's a family of Rasulullah that uphold the teachings of the religion, those who are scholars amongst them. All right. So the communists appearing randomly is such a random occurrence in Yemen. And they were amongst the Hadrami, the Arabs in Yemen, and their minds were so polluted. What were they doing? They were killing in the tens of thousands of the Habaib. Right? They were killing. And it was oppression. Right? Same thing happened in Southeast Asia. If you go into the history of the colonists in Southeast Asia, right, you will see the colonists came to Southeast Asia because the huge group of Ahlul Bayt in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in Singapore, right, in other parts of Southeast Asia, the Hadramis had come, right, to Southeast Asia, also to India, right? India, the entire trade routes, right? The Hadramis had spread, right, and so the Ahlul Bayt had spread, right, and to the point whereby the zulm, right, the oppression was so severe that it is recorded in our history, that the Ahlul Bayt would remove the name Sharifa or the name Sayyid. Some of them will remove it to hide that they are Ahlul Bayt because of the massacre. It's massacre, right? Because of the killing in the hundreds and thousands of Ahlul Bayt in Southeast Asia, in India, right? By who? By the colonists. And when they came to these lands, they searched out the Ahlul Bayt and they began killing off the Ahlul Bayt, right? Because of, I mean, they know that this is what it's going to be about, right? It's all from here, right? SubhanAllah, subhanallah, right? So it's all like history, it's all history, and you go deeper and deeper into it, right? You will see a lot of this is hidden, right, from us, right? But mashallah. So anyway, I was giving a slight point about that. Let's just go into that a little bit. You see what's you will see this going on over and over again. The Dajjalic forces, right? They hate the Ahlul Bayt, right? They hate the Ahlul Bayt, right? And it is their forces that's running around on this earth, right, telling people that the Ahlul Bayt are nothing. Don't hold on to them. I walk away from them. They are not special, right? These are the Dajjalic forces specifically. They are, because why? Imam Mahdi is one of them. The Imam Mahdi, he is going to be Ahlul Bayt from his father and mother, right? And he'll be on the name of Rasulullah, and his father's name will be on the name of Rasulullah. His Imam Mahdi, his name will be Muhammad bin Abdullah. Right? His name will be Muhammad bin Abdullah. And mashallah, the side story, Habib Muhammad al-Haddar, right? Habib Muhammad al-Haddar, his name is Muhammad bin Abdullah. Mashallah, right? Mashallah. And his name is Muhammad bin Abdullah al-Haddar. This is the father of Habib Nur. And he was such a phenomenal person in his akhlaq, in his da'wah, in his everything that he was. And he caused a lot of changes in Yemen. Mashallah, and our Sheikh Al-Habib Umar, he is a result of Habib Muhammad al-Haddad. And our Sheikha Habib Nur, she is a result of Habib Muhammad al-Haddad. To the point in his zaman, people were thinking he's the Mahdi because his name is Muhammad bin Abdullah. His name is Muhammad bin Abdullah, the same name of Rasulullah, but he's not. He's not the Mahdi. He passed away, right? But people were like thinking, is he the Mahdi? Right? Because he's done so much goodness, mashallah, mashallah. But inshallah, take the hawla, we go into all this stuff, all these issues, inshallah. So when the communists left Yemen eventually, right, they were driven out, left Yemen, they were overthrown, they left Yemen eventually. It was a time of the communists that Habib Muhammad bin Salim, the father of Habib Umar, was abducted and killed in that zaman. A lot of them were prosecuted and they were oppressed in that zaman of the communists. In Yemen, you hear them say Ashiyu'iyya, right? When you hear Ashiyu'iyya, they mean the communists. And they themselves, Habib Maryam will say, they themselves have no idea where the communists came from. They say that, and it's their own fathers, their own grandfathers who saw it. They have no idea where this bill came from, right? And how they had spread their influence in the land of Hadramaut, right? And they disturbed and destroyed so many things in Hadramaut. It's all you say, certain occurrences. These are all Dajjalic forces. trying to stop a matter that Allah will ensure that it will prevail and it will come to a completion, as Allah Himself says in the Quran, that they want to put out the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like they want to put out the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Allah refuses, except that His light will be complete over His creation, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, so when we come to the end of times, and you see a lot of shar, a lot of evil all around, always understand that goodness is above all. Like goodness is above all. So when the communists left Yemen and the north and south region were united, Habib Adani returned to Yemen. He brought with him the desire and plans in unifying hearts and minds in order to create a conducive and peaceful environment. So what did he do? Okay, this was when my mom collected this notes. Now it's way more than 83 branches, right? I think now it's up to the hundreds of schools opened up by him. Right? You like want to open up one school, you're struggling to open up one school. He has opened up hundreds of schools. Right now here in Tarim, in Hadramaut at Husaysa. At Husaysa, there is a diploma program studying fiqh there, as well as the other science of Islam, right? At Imam Muhajir. Right here in Tarim, the women program is here. I'm in the women's program. And then amongst the boys, young boys, my nephew's in the program. My nephew Isa, right? Whereby they from age 7, they train the boys, right, on a very strong manhaj. You know, so it's all the school of Habib Bakr al-Adani, you know, mashallah, right? So you see that at that time here, they opened up 83 branches. He has opened up school after school after school, right? Because he's trying to, one thing, go against a schooling that ruins human beings, that ruins Muslims, right? And it's so you need to give people an alternative, right, to go for. So they provide a school, right, whereby correct, the religion that is correct is taught, right, together with the himaya, together with the protection, right, for Iman, Islam, and Ihsan. Let's go down. Okay, right. So okay, where are we? Here, right here. Okay, so his thoughts, okay, his thoughts. Right, so Habib Abu Bakr Ali has authored more than 150 works in various disciplines, such as fiqh, jurisprudence, history, literature, Islamic thought, and methodology, the entire way of doing it. Right? In fact, he has produced several unprecedented writings, which are crucial importance to the Islamic world. So my mom taught this 20 years ago, 20 years ago, she was going through this. So, mashallah, this was the beginning of his journey, the beginning of his life work. Right? At the beginning, he was really doing it for many years already, but his entire life's work. Right? So he's coined many new terms in the field of fiqh that we're learning right now, right? Sunnah, mawaqif, manhaj al-salama, and other interesting terms. Habib Bakr Adani, he has his own istilahat, right? Istilahat meaning terminology, right? So, and he would say Anisa, she would always emphasize to us that Habib Bakr Adani, he would say, pay attention to the istilahat. Pay attention to the terminology, understand terminology, right? Because you cannot go far in knowledge if you don't understand terminology. You must know how to define things, and you must know how to understand istilahat. You must understand terminology. Mashallah. And all of these terms, you will be learning them as you go along with fiqh tahawulat. Okay, so all terms under fiqh tahawulat. Habib, when he coins his own terms, he makes up his own terms. Because it doesn't exist in the language, so he mixed up his own terminology, right? So and he will give the istilahat for it, because he is the world there. He is the founder of this knowledge. He is a arranger of this knowledge, right? So he will give the istilahat, right? He will give the definitions, right? You say the technical definitions to all of these terms that he himself will coin. Right? He will make up these terms, mashallah. Right? These are people they are geniuses, they're geniuses in their own right. Okay, so fiqh tahawulat is a bit about fiqh tahawulat. This among the we'll go much more into it, inshallah, in the course of the dawrah, inshallah. This is among the fields which he particularly specialized in. In fact, not just specialized, but it is his life's work. But before this, right, you will see that he is an alim in his own rights in all the sciences of Islam. Okay, so he's an alim because he can't, it will not be possible for him to arrange fiqh tahawulat, into the knowledge that is in fiqh tahawulat without being a scholar, an alim in his own right, in tafsir, in fiqh, in aqidah, in hadith, right, in mustalah, right, in all of these things, even in nahu, in language, in balagha, right, in every science. He is not just knowledgeable. He is an expert at the sciences, at all the sciences. And of course, the kind of mental capacity that he's able to do this from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the study in the fourth pillar of the religion after Islam, Iman Ihsan, the knowledge, the end of times, the place are based on the Hadith Jibril. So after Habib Bakr Abdul Qadir, after Habib Abdul Qadir Sagaf, I gave him the ishara, gave him the indication, right? Go, right? Search, read, go back to the ahadith and reread them, right? Re-study them, read them. He began doing it. Until he but he came to, right, Hadith Jibril. And that is one of our things we're going to speak about in the next few lessons. Hadith Jibril, that is the biggest, futuh for him in this knowledge, right? So when he came to Hadith Jibril, right, and he re-studied it. You know what it means by re-study, right? Let us go to the Hadith, read it again, okay, halas, and go on. La, it means to pull out all of the explanations of this hadith from the various ulama and their books, right? So it means any sharah of every single hadith, any explanation of every single hadith he's really looking at, he pulls out all of the sharah and he reads and he pauses over it and he reads and he reads and he looks into it and it deepens and deepens and deepens to understand every single one of this. And because of this juhd, this effort that was from himself, right? Allah opened up for him. Subhanallah, right? So it was at Hadith Jibril that he realized that when it came to the first three questions that Jibril asked Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and inshallah we'll go into the hadith in a few lessons, right? He realized for all of the sharah, for all of the explanations, of the hadith, right, with the first three questions, a lot is said by the scholars, by the ulama. A lot is said by the ulama. But for the last question about the end of times, he noticed the commentary is very short, a very short commentary. I just, what this could mean, about a slave girl giving birth to her master, and about the barefoot, naked, impoverished shepherd, striving to build higher and higher buildings, right? So the scholars in the past, they keep the interpretation of what this could possibly mean, about the future, right? And Habib was, it struck him how the first three questions had a full lengthy explanation about the first three. And then the last one, for every single, sharah that he came across, it's very short, right? Very short, especially compared to the first three. So, and therefore he went deeper into it, until Allah gave him ilm ladunni, until Allah gave him knowledge from himself, and Allah opened for him, showing him that the fourth pillar is not simply about a woman giving birth to her master, and not simply about, barefoot, naked, destitute, shepherds, building high and high buildings. No, but these two, right, they are actually symbols, right? They are pillars and they are symbols of, of principles of the end of time. Right? Rasul gives two principles of the end of time, because this Hadith Jibril, it is Shamil Kamil, right? This Hadith Jibril, it is all encompassing. It is full. It is in fact a summary of the entire of Islam. It is a summary. So if you understand the Hadith Jibril is a summary of the whole of Islam, and in fact this story of Hadith Jibril came towards the end of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not the first few hadiths we learn when you learn any books of hadith. It's one of the first few you learn, but it came towards the end of the life, towards the end of his mission. with all these methods, right? Where did the hadith come? It came towards the end of his mission, right? Which means what? It's a summary. And in fact, from the prophetic words, he himself said, when he said to Umar, Ya Umar, atadri man sa'il? Oh Umar, do you know who was the questioner that day that came to us? And Sayyidina Umar said, Allah wa Rasuluhu a'lam. Allah and His Prophet know best. And he said, Innahu Jibreel. For surely it was Jibreel. Atakum yu'allimukum umura dinikum, in one narration. He came to you to teach you the matters of your deen. So by the nas of the hadith, by the words of the hadith, this hadith encompasses all of our religion. All of our religion. So that is proof that what Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said about the two signs of the end of time that he said in the hadith, they're not just two signs mustaqil hakada. La. It's not mustaqil hakada. It's not two signs yani, by themselves. How is mustaqil in English? Mustaqil, yani. Allah alam. Not two signs by themselves like that. Yeah, I don't know what was the English for it. It's not two independent signs, that's unrelated to anything else. Which means that they are actually pillars. They are pillars of principles, from which every corruption in the end of times can be grouped under two main umbrellas, whereby every corruption can be grouped under. So it was like, as how do you say, it's like a riddle. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said something like a riddle, and Adani, he broke the code. He broke it. And a lot of the hadith of Rasulullah, they come in the form of like code. Like it's coded, right? And people in the end of times, they are the ones who can look at it and break the code. Why? Because we see it in front of us. We're seeing it in front of us. So we're able to break the code. People from before, they were unable to break the code because they didn't see what does this mean. What is Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam talking about? Mashallah. Inshallah, we'll go through all of it as we go through the material, inshallah. So the hadith update, the pillars are based on hadith Jibril, in which Jibril came to Rasulullah in the form of a man. And this is the summary. I'll be going through it in detail, inshallah, in next few lessons. I asked him several questions in the presence of the noble companions. The fourth pillar of the deen is unlike the first three. The first three is tawabit, fixed and definitive. When I look at the slides, I'm wondering, mashallah, my mom taught us all these things when I was a teenager. And only now I understand. Mashallah. Mashallah. While this fourth pillar is transformative, and it is a mutaghayyirat. It's transformative, it changes depending on the stages of time, because the fasad changes, the corruption changes. So therefore, the protection has to change, right, towards the end of time. Now, as for the fruits and benefit of this knowledge, it is to know the proper way to address and behave in face of trials and tribulations in each different stage of the transition. So the fruit and benefit of this knowledge right here, right, is to know the proper way to address and behave. How do you respond to the trials? And first and foremost, to be able to identify that there is a fitna over there, because the Dajjal will disguise the fitna as blessings. So many people can't see that what is fitna is actually fitna. They think it is ni'mah, but it's actually fitna. Okay, a very clear example will be the entire entertainment industry, right? The whole entertainment industry is fitna, major fitna. Like people see it as, oh, relaxation. They see it as, oh, it's my me time. Oh, it's my happy time. Like, oh, it's my relax. It's the family time. Right? But it's fitna, and it be adarri fitna. Right? It's the most destructive of fitna, of fitan. Al-Habib mentioned that many scholars have fallen into being a helper of the false messiah of the Dajjal and his system due to the ignorance of this knowledge with the hawlat. That is true, right? Not just the awam and not just the common person, even the ulama of the past that actually fell into the traps of the Dajjal because they didn't know it was a trap. So they fall into the trap. But of course, there were of the ulama who were saved from it, who understood, right? Like for example, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, right? The great people who actually faced the traps of Dajjal, and they were successful, right, from it. He added that so some of the great companions and great imams in clean tribulations displayed their firm grounding in this knowledge. Right? It is clear that Al-Habib's thoughts in contribution to the Islamic world is of critical importance. So it's not just something extra, but it is critically important and needs to be spread for the benefit of the community at large. It needs to be learnt, right? MashaAllah. Okay, it's really 6:23 here in Tarim. It's going to azan soon. We'll stop there, inshallah. Tomorrow I'll go back to the book itself. Today was tarjamah. I finished the slides now, mashallah. And tomorrow I'll go back to the book itself, right? To begin, right, with the Matla' Qur'ani and the Matla' Nabawi. Right, so Matla' Qur'ani will be the Quranic foundation, and the Matla' Nabawi will be the hadith that forms the foundation of this knowledge. We just see where we can get up to in this entire dawrah. I see where we can get up to, but it'll be food for thought for you all to think about. Right, so at least your eyes are opened up, to this knowledge. This knowledge is, it is an illumination. It is an illumination. Now, I'll end with my story. You can mention about my story that day. So the story was told to me by one of the banat, mashallah. Because I teach the banat fiqh tahawulat every Thursday with Aqidah. Fiqh tahawulat together hand in hand with Aqidah to relook at our Aqidah texts that we have taken in the Zahra, right, in the lens of fiqh tahawulat, because they're all going back to the West. I teach to the banat of the West, right? But it's open to anybody who answers English, and because a lot of them are going back to the West, right? So to prepare them for the harb that's going on there, for the war that's going on there in the West, the war of what? The war of faith. People are losing their faith. It's a war of aqidah. It's a war of faith, right? So to prepare the Banat, right? So when they go back to the countries, they're able to help people fight, right, this war. So one of them, my last lesson, said to me a very beautiful story that I want to share, and I like it so much. I like it so much, inshallah. May Allah reward her greatly on greatly on our behalf. So she said that it's something that her father always say, a story that her father always tell them. She said that there was once a sheikh, right? There was once a sheikh, an old man, who was of the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was given basira. He had deep inner sight. And also firasat, right? That is the inner sight or the perception of a believer. So this sheikh had sons, and he would say to his sons, "Oh, my sons, my time is close. That means I'm going to pass away soon. I have very important advice to tell you." Right? And he said that after this very year, there'll be a drought. Right? There'll be a major drought, and it will last for quite some time. People will be going crazy from this drought, because they'll be dying, they'll be suffering from this drought. After that drought, right, there will come rain. Here's my advice. In this year that we are in right now, before the drought, this year that we're in right now, collect the rain of this year, because the rain of this current year is good rain, it's blessed rain, it's beneficial rain, it's the true rain. Then when the years of drought hit you, right, always go back to the rain of this year, okay? Go back to this rain, the first rain. Go back to this rain and drink from this rain. And when the years of drought end, there'll be a second rain. There'll be a second rain that will fall. This second rain is evil. This second rain will destroy the human beings. This second rain will make people become evil. Don't you dare drink from the second rain. But people, because they are in desperateness because of the drought, they will gulp down huge portions of the second rain, and they'll be destroyed. Okay. So this story is actually an analogy, right? We have gotten our first rain from our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He gave us the first rain. It's from him. And now we are in the drought. Right now, we're in the drought. where people are losing their minds, people are going into depression, they're going into all kinds of suicidal thoughts, they're going into all kinds of shar or all kinds of evil, they're going into sin, they're going into heedlessness, they're going into entertainment, they're going to all kinds of things. We are in a drought now. And you will see the evil that will come from this drought. People are going crazy. Then a second rain, but the second rain is from Dajjal. He will be giving this rain. So he will provide solutions to the problem that he caused. He's causing the problems, and he'll give his solutions that are not from the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And people will rush to the second rain, and they will consume, and he will destroy them. So now look at yourself. So for example, right, someone, and I'll say very clearly, someone who has who has worries, right? Someone who has worries, right? Constant worries in their heads. The first rain tells us, come, do la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Do hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. 7 times every morning, in the evening. It will help you with your anxiety, it will help you with your worry. That's the first rain. The first rain tells us that. The second rain tells us, oh, we have all these issues. Come, let me give you these pills. We have all these issues. Come, let us go into this, leave the prayer for a while, leave the salat for a while. Like, you have to have your own self. You must take care of your own self first. Leave the salat first for a while and come and just go on a holiday, right? And then it will help you with whatever you're going through. That's the second rain. You see that? Do you understand the analogy? Hope you understand, It's so profound, mashallah. And this is Banat, she will say to me that her father always to them when they're on their phones, are you all drinking from the second rain? Are you all consuming the second rain? Right? He's them on their computers, on their phones, on their Instagram, on their social media. Is this the second rain or the first rain? What are you doing? Right, mashallah. So whatever we do, think, are we consuming first rain? This dawrah, first rain, inshallah, first rain. This dawrah, with the barakah of Habib Umar, the awliya behind it, this dawrah is the first rain. Like, consume from the first rain, right? Then think about it. Do you consume from the second rain in your life, in your day? Are you watching stuff from the second rain? Right, mashallah. And we end there, inshallah. I go in salat. Barakallahu feekum. Tomorrow, same time, 10:30. Inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. أن الله يرزقنا عمل نافع وعمل خاص بالتعليم ودل الهدى ويسر بقول نبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وأرواح معلمين مشايخنا وذوي الحق علينا وإلى حضرة النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. الفاتحة. الفاتحة خاص لشيخنا وحبيبنا حياك العدني، الله يرفع درجته وقبره ينفعنا به. الفاتحة. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.